Hi, everybody. It is Wes again with Pikes Peak Trades and excited to give you another weekly update for the stock markets. Week ending December 4th, 2020. A really good week for stock market bulls. I'm going to take you through weekly charts, daily charts, a few short term charts, doing my usual stocks A to Z. We'll get you all the way through the major indices, ETFs, and some big name tickers that you want to see. So we're tracking here in the SPX weekly chart right in the middle of what I think is a very bullish progression. And there's just no reason here to be bearish. We are seeing very, very strong continuation moves week to week. You are going to notice I do keep bearish markers in place on my charts, but there is nothing at all technically to suggest that we have an imminent major or significant top. The only thing I would point out, and you're going to see this technically as we look through, that there is some divergence on the RSI indicator. However, that kind of divergence can play out over weeks. And I would also point out that on the weekly RSI, we are not even yet into overbought territory. So I look at that as simply the opportunity for this move having a lot more room to run. So yes, I am projecting that we see SPX at 4,000 by the end of December, by the end of year 2020. And then I think that bull move just continues into 2021. So looking into QQQ, QQQ again strongly progressing in this bull channel that it briefly dipped below during the correction at the very end of October. But I do see QQQ ready to break out. Everyone that's bearish is talking about how overextended we are, and I don't agree. I would show you that overextended is when on the weekly chart you pull away significantly from the 8 period average. And I would point that out on the daily as well. We are not there on either SPX, not anything like what it was in the run up to the September top, or QQQ, not anything like extension in the run up to September. So I actually think that December eventually will look a lot more like we saw price progression in August, which was an extremely bullish period. That's my projection. It's not a prediction. We're not talking about a certainty here. I can't say 100% it's going to happen. I'm just suggesting that the weight of the evidence, the progression and momentum of what we're seeing is suggesting that the count that I have us in, really it is a nested 3 of 3 of 3 of 3. I think that is the most likely path of resolution from a probability standpoint. Now, for the rest of these moves, let me now get into the other weekly ETFs that I love to track before I get into the individual names. So IWM outperformed certainly on Friday of this week, and it has now moved up right up against this top rail that I've been tracking all the way since we started this progression in early March. We briefly had overthrow here of that in June that kind of resulted in a snapback sell-off. What I think needs to happen, you'll see this maybe a little more clearly on the daily, is I think that IWM needs to push through that it needs, in order to accomplish what I think is the continuation of this bull move, that it wouldn't be topping here. That is my alternate count, that we have a minor degree top, not a hugely significant top, but one that would get your attention. I think we need to see that push through and get more into an acceleration channel. It is extended quite far on the weekly. So I wouldn't be surprised to see financials and small caps lag a bit and tech resume leadership. That is part of my projection and my positioning. So XLF, you're going to see also quite far extended, but you're going to notice a very bullish curving upwards of the 200-week MA. Like IWM, it could be close to making a minor top. That would be what would happen if we see a move to the downside early the week that starts December 7th. But I still have that moving progressively, strongly upward within this bull move. Now remember, the very definition of an uptrend is a higher high and a higher low. And that pattern is exactly intact. And you simply cannot get bearish until you see that reverse. Whether it's from a bigger topping picture on weekly candles all the way down to what I like to track on the 15-minute chart, getting into these subdegree waves, these minute waves, these minuet waves. We have yet to see that happen. So until technically we see price start to reject that higher high, higher low, there's just no reason to be bearish. So I don't think there's no technical justification to be bearish going into this weekend. If you are wanting to be a bear, it is silly to be a top picking bear. That is a way to just draw down your capital. You can be a bear when technical levels fail, but until that happens, you should be positioned where probabilities favor the continuation of this move. Okay, so that takes you through by index, by ETF. Let's go ahead and now look at some big names. I had been tweeting out that my only real concern on a weekly candle was in Tesla. So Tesla quite far extended from its 8-week, this is actually its 13-week. I do want to quickly change that because I do like seeing trend following in terms of the 8-week. Okay, so when that updates, you're going to see still quite far extended from the 8-week. And that hammer has a hanging man look. So I do think Tesla would be closer to a top after its massive run up through the month of December. We're looking at 20% weeks that preceded this week. But again, just that one candle isn't quite enough to say that we're going to have a top. We still have room to run here in the 70s in the RSI. So slightly cautious for Tesla bulls, but not overly cautious. We could easily just see continuation to tag this upper trend line. I've got about 640 to 650 for a topping target this coming week in Tesla. Get you in here to Google on the weekly. Incredible move. All-time highs. Very, very strong move. Like Tesla, I think we're going to see a top rail touch, and you're going to see a short-term target I have that's just under 1900. I do think we see Google near 2000 by the end of December. We're kind of progressing in levels of strength. So from the strongest Tesla through Google, now through Apple. And look at this Apple weekly chart. I just don't see how you can be bearish when you see this wedge breakout here in Apple. Up almost 5% on the week. Most of that was on Monday and Tuesday, when there was probably a little bit of end-of-month redistribution back into Apple. And we didn't really go anywhere towards the end of the week, Wednesday through Friday. But I see this breakout, and I am projecting Apple by the end of December between, let's say, 140 and 150. So kind of progressing now towards things that are still strong, but we're a little bit more questionable on an interesting, possibly an inverted hammer candle on Facebook. But you're going to notice the progression over the last week. We've got our progression here of still some higher highs. Okay, so holding its 8-week moving average, even though it did sell off Thursday and Friday, which was disappointing after a nice run up midweek. I still have Facebook progressing in this bullish move. I think we see Facebook by around 320 by the end of December. So we get to the two that have yet to really move. And I showed earlier this week a progressive set of how I have decision-making surrounding Microsoft. I see it coiled, and I see the potential for a big breakout. If Microsoft is going to move, it is going to happen now. There is no more bullish set of conditions for a stock in the way that I count than where Microsoft is. Again, it is a probability projection. It's not a prediction. I could be proved wrong, but I think it is worth taking a position here on Microsoft. And I think many of my Twitter followers did at the end of the week. Okay, then we move to the one that's really frustrating. The real laggard here is Amazon. And Amazon, I hope on Friday, um, I'm not going to say hope. I don't want to make it sound like it's just a wish and a prayer. I think on Friday, Amazon's move is more of a shakeout move. We did see it close below its 8-week EMA. It did close below its daily moving average cluster. Take it down to my 15-minute. It closed below my 200 period MA, my trend following MA. I am thinking that is not a leading indicator to the downside. I'm thinking that's a little bit of a shakeout and the coil is still happening. You can see my primary projection. I do have Amazon in the 3,700 range by the end of the month. Now, that is extremely bullish. It is possible that takes much longer to get there, but that fits consistently with the thesis of these other things that I'm saying. Okay, so now let me get you into some of the daily charts here. You already saw some projections for IWM and XLF. I'll save the dailies for metals on that tab. Let me get you now into the dailies here. So there is possibly a smaller degree topping target on SPX if we do actually see some selling at the early of the week, and not what I would think is going to be the bigger top, something that could take us down to backtest maybe 3,500. Again, that is my lower probability move because SPX is tracking so well within a nested bullish count. So we see higher high, we see a higher low. It's moving all the way progressively through. What I have us in right now is, if I take you through the Elliott Wave nomenclature of names, a micro 3 that's within a minuet 3, within a minute 3, that's within a minor 3, that's within an intermediate 3. This is how you get a melt up. So the other very bullish technicians out there that have these counts, there is the theoretical, the technical justification that this is going to happen. And I think it's simply about supply and demand. I don't try to get mixed up in news or fundamentals. There is simply a lot of money out there that's motivated to go into stocks. And that's as simple as I think you need to keep it. Follow price, follow momentum, turn off the mainstream media, turn off the talking financial heads, and just learn to follow price. And it's going to help your mind stay so much more clear. So I do see continuation strongly into the 3,700s with kind of a super bullish count that we get into the 3,800s by maybe the end of next week even. Certainly kind of the week leading up to into Christmas. And I am still, yes, optimistic we do see 4,000 on the SPX here. It charts and channels very, very well. QQQ, it is in the same bullish progression. And I do look for consistency and confirmation. It is a 3 within all these threes, as I just said. So I would love to see QQQ attack this rail early next week and get back in it. It could do it in one day. We get a 2% move up on QQQ in one day. We're back solidly within this bull channel. I think that's what needs to happen from a channeling perspective in order for it to get to my target of 327 by the end of the month. Okay, the other dailies, I'm going to skip a few of the dailies here. I want to now move into Facebook. And I want to show you how horizontal price pivots are like magnets for price. So since really here in Facebook, it's July for Microsoft, it's August for Facebook. The 265 to 278, 280 area has been like a magnet. It's been pulling price up from the low side and pulling price down from the upper side. And I have highlighted for you 1, 2, 3 areas, and now 4 areas where it has not been able to, in a sustained way, break away from this 280 area. That is what has to happen on Facebook for its bullish resolution to take over. I had been talking repeatedly this week on Twitter, watch the 278, 280 area, watch it, watch it, watch it, and it pulled back right there. It pulled back. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it pulled back. I personally view this hammer as an inverted bullish hammer. And I think there was a little bit of shakeout here, end of the week. I think it's revved up to challenge all-time highs by the end of this coming week. That fits the bullish thesis. Take a look at something similar here on Microsoft. I've already shared this in a video early this week. Microsoft's level is 216, 217. We see price pulled up to it, pulled back to it. On its intermediate 2 sell-off, it got there again. We had kind of that false breakout. It's ready to move, and that's what needs to happen. It needs to pull strongly away from 216, 217 in order for us to get there. Getting into Amazon, you're going to see it close below that moving average cluster that I mentioned. Didn't like to see it, but the optimistic side is if you chose to enter Amazon late on Friday, you got a great risk reward. I really do think you got a great risk reward. You can set a very tight stop. Your stop can simply be, well, you're not going to be happy if it opens down on Monday. You get out. Now, a little more loose stop would have it here at the low of this candle. And so the low of that candle would be at 31.26. That would have to be if you're not holding options. If you're holding options and Monday's down, my recommendation is get out. Get out right away. But I'm seeing that in the progression of what I think happens consistently. We get a strong move up into Amazon into the end of the year. So there is my December target, 36 to 3,700. We're going to see what happens. Of course, it's projection. I've got these downside targets in there. What the bears would say is if that happens, the bears would say, well, all of these that haven't broken out to new all-time highs, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, that's your non-confirmation that we were going lower. And if that happens, then they've got that leg and that argument to stand on. I do think that we're seeing continuation upward. Okay, so now let me get you into other names here. I'm not going to show you any of the short-term charts. I don't really think that's necessary. You can already see from the dailies the nested set of threes that we're in. And again, the progression here is from strong down to the weak into Roku. Roku is a name that I've been in for a while. I do think Roku, we just saw a new all-time high on Roku put in Friday. I think we see Roku solidly into the 300s. Very, very good name to buy, hold, or actively trade if you like weekly or monthly options. I added to my position on Honeywell on this hold, and I love to see Honeywell break out of what I had as kind of the diagonal resistance level. I see Honeywell moving up by the end of January towards 230, 235. Boeing is one that I needed to admit this week that I was wrong. I thought the market was going to take Boeing down lower in this minute 2 sell-off, and Boeing just decided it was going to go ahead and break above here its June highs. It didn't close above that on Friday, but I think just a little bit of rest. I think Boeing has the potential to get all the way up towards 300 by the end of the month. So AMD was one you had a chance to add on Friday, and I called this top here. And I gave you retracement levels here. Now, it is not my style to tell you what to do. I suggest, I imply, I give winks and nudges. This tag, intraday Friday of the 8-day EMA, at these fib retracements that I had on my chart, that would have been a wonderful day trade or a swing trade entry to get you up towards $100. Now, Excuse me, I didn't do it because I was focused on other areas in tech. But that would have been a really, really solid entry here on AMD. Okay, progressing into some weaker things. DraftKings didn't really bounce off of this, what I thought was its minute 4 low. It's possible that DraftKings might want to tag these rails here, maybe below 48, slightly in the upper 47s. But I do still think we see a move towards certainly above 54 before there's anything more strongly bearish here in DraftKings. Walmart is one I'm disappointed in. I have a sell order in. If Walmart trades below 146.60, I'm going to sell my shares. It still does count by an Elliott Wave 1, 2, 3, 4. Walmart needs to get moving. If this is going to happen, a lot of my followers are Walmart bulls. It did not progressively break out in the ways that we were hoping after its November earnings. It really needs to participate. One positive bit is this candle here looks like a bullish candle. So it did hit a 38% fib marker, and that is a really good internal fib marker for some continuation. And the bullish thesis would say if we're going to get that move in the general stock market, I think it's time for Walmart to really start with some giddy up. Okay, so two names that you could potentially be looking to short are Beyond and Zoom. And Beyond just can't get out of the sandwich that it's in between its 8-day EMA and this pivot in the 141 to 142 range. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't have any active positions in Beyond. I'm just watching it. I'm kind of interested to see, is it going to break out, tag this rail? Does it have any juice at all to get back to the 50-day moving average? I don't like to hold anything that is beneath the 50-day moving average, and so we'll see here on Beyond. Zoom, another one that is also beneath all of its moving averages. I still think Zoom is in a bearish progression. A tag of this upper rail, it's already come close to tagging its 8-day EMA. If I've got any powder left and any conviction, I might even think about a short on Zoom. Just two names that are weak that I'm not very optimistic on that I am interested in watching. Okay, we're going to finish up this morning by getting into the metals and miners. That's not the right tab. So we're looking here at GLD and GDX. And what an incredible move on these early in the week in the miners. Saw a little bit of just consolidation here on GLD. It got back into this channel, and it's ready to start challenging some of these MAs that it's below. Now, you're probably going to be thinking, well, you just contradicted yourself. You said that you're not in anything below its 50-day. I have a much different view here on metals and miners. I look at them in a different category as a more traditional equity. I think if we're inflationary, I think we see strong moves in metals and miners. So GDX, we've got GDX just kind of hanging around here, consolidating right at its 8-day EMA. You swing that out to make that a little bit bigger. GDX does have to get moving strongly up. And this does play in consistently with my thesis that we set a significant low. And you're going to notice it was Tuesday of this week, it was up nearly 4%. And then it pretty much consolidated sideways. So I'm looking for bullish continuation next week. I want to show you a few of my favorite silver miners here. So this is first Majestic Silver after its massive move up. So this was Tuesday, 6%, follow through of 2%. This was on Wednesday, and then sideways consolidation. I think that's bullish. I have these mining companies with very, very bullish progression. So we're talking about the potential here of 50 to 100% moves going into January through March. I like Hecla. Hecla's one I'm holding long and long stock and long in options, and we got closes above its 50-day SMA. So back in this bull channel. I really like Hecla moving up, and I really like Core to lean. I like Core moving up here. We've got it strongly above all of its moving averages, and you're going to see that I've got targets here. 50 to 100% moves are not out of the realm of possibility if the bullish inflationary thesis persists. So you've got my projections. I think the weight of evidence still suggests you can't get bearish until we see the trend of higher highs and higher lows broken. And just taking you into SPX, what would that look like? Well, you got to have these highs break. You got to see 1370. You got to see 1344. You got to see 1330. There's no reason to get bearish until that happens, and the counts are suggesting that more higher highs are on the way. So I wish all of you a happy weekend. Best of luck to you in your trading starting in the second week of December. Continue to send questions my way. I like interacting and entertaining those in that way on Twitter. And like the video, spread it out, give me some retweets and follows, and wish you all the best.